All right, guys. So I'm here with Alex from Playing with Fire, which if you guys didn't know, we actually did a live video last Sunday. If you guys want to check that out, go to his channel at Playing with Fire. So it's good to have you, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on, bro. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, tell my audience a little bit about yourself so they can get a feel for who you are.
Sure. So my name is Alex, and I started a website called Playing Fire about it was 4 years ago now. So basically the premise of the website was really just to share layer reports. Actually, first it started off as a Facebook group to just share layer reports, just have a place where like-minded guys can just learn off each other's success. And then the website slowly grew into a YouTube channel and stuff. But mainly what we're focused on is just shit that fucking works. So a lot of online games, some cold approach, you know, going to the gym, just anything to maximize your success with women and maximize your success in life.
Oh, nice. You know, it's funny. I actually started working on the dating stuff too myself, the dating apps. That stuff's actually really fire, especially if you figure out how to use it. I love the gym.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as long as you can use it correctly. Actually, I usually combine those. Usually I'm fucking Tindering while I'm at the gym. In between sets, I just finish a set of pull-ups, bam, right swipe, dips. Just cold approached a really hot chick that works at the gym 4 hours ago. So yeah, I don't really do cold approach sessions. So meaning I don't like go out and I'm going to day game for 3-4 hours. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I used to do that when I was younger. Mainly I do cold approach now when I'm just going about my day-to-day life. So I'm walking to the gym, at the grocery store. Like honestly, 50% of my cold approach leads come from Whole Foods, right? Because that's where I spend like fucking most of my days. So yeah, I do, but I don't do it in like the traditional pickup artist way.
Well, I've honestly been starting to push my clients in that direction. So a lot of them work a lot of hours, and it's tough unless you do this for a living to go out 3 hours a day. I'm hardcore into the cold approach aspect. Like I game like 6 days out of the week, if not 7. But like most people, like especially you have a really successful business. You have a really nice business that's like doing you pretty well.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I got you. Well, it's tough to like, you know, go out like so for me, when for us, like I'll say this, like it's just easier to go to a grocery store. If you're gonna go get groceries, see a cute girl, why don't you go talk to her? Or if you're at the gym, you see a cute girl working out, why not go, you know, talk to her there? But it is tough for like guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Like they have approach anxiety and that's kind of difficult. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's better in terms of time savings. It's also, I think it's better because it's more natural. So if you're going out to do a day game session, it's not like truly a natural activity. It's not something that anyone who's not in a pickup community would do. And sometimes it can put you in that pickup mode, right? You're kind of like, oh, I got to do my cold approaches now, which puts you in your head. Versus if you're just like, say you're like really focused on running your errands, right? You're not thinking about cold approach. And then you see a hot girl, your approach is going to be a lot more authentic and genuine in that situation.
I see. I feel the same thing. I actually have all kinds of mind games that I used to play with myself. I still do play with myself. When it comes down to it,
Words of wisdom. I still play with myself.
Well, I'm actually not allowed to play with myself currently. I promised one of my clients that I would do no FAP with him, which is difficult. I'll say that. It's a very tough thing to do. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of it yet, but I'll say this.
Well, it's better than doing FAP with one of your clients.
Yeah, I guess the opposite would be pretty weird. So, well,
the opposite would be
with the game stuff. What was it that actually here? This is the direction I was thinking about it. So you were talking about that, and I actually wanted to talk to you about this. So a lot of you guys, we're going to talk about coaching for a second because I'm really curious how this guy coaches. So when you talk to a client, what do you usually focus on? Because I focus on very specific things. Usually I'll focus on like a keystone sticking point, or I'll try to like figure out where they're at, and then I'll think about where I was when they were and what got me to the next level, or they like usually try to level. How do you coach usually?
Yeah, so genuinely, this is when I do one-on-one coaching, which I honestly don't do that often nowadays, because mainly I just encourage people to get my product and join the mastermind group, and usually that does the trick. But, you know, for guys who do want to do the one-on-one coaching, generally I try to figure out, again, it's going to be customized to each person, but I want to figure out what's like their bottleneck right now. Is their bottleneck that they're not getting that many matches? Is the bottleneck their texting? Maybe they're getting a lot of matches, but they're fucking them all up. Maybe their bottleneck right now is that they're really bad at retaining girls after sex. So they sleep with a good amount of girls, but they can't get any day twos. Maybe their bottleneck is dates, right? They're fucking up on their dates. So I want to figure out what the bottleneck is and then try to fix that. And then after that, you know, then I try to focus on the other things. Generally speaking, more often than not, bottleneck is probably going to be their profile pictures. Most guys, their pictures suck. So like, all right, let's take a look at this. Bam, bam, out. Put this one in. Good. Okay, now you're going to get 3 times more matches. Okay, next, let's take a look at how you're texting girls.
Yeah, when it comes down to dating apps and whatnot, you can't really show as much of a personality, which kind of sucks, especially for guys that, like for me originally. So I sucked at dating apps for so long. Like I actually was doing so bad at them that I was like, and the quality of girls versus the girls I was getting in cold approach were so terrible. I was like, yeah, nah, I'm just gonna keep approaching because that's like where I was getting all the hot girls from. And I started thinking about it, and I started working with that company, Endless Options, I was telling you about earlier. And I don't know, we talked it through for a while, and we started working on it, and we started like kind of, and I realized there's so many things you could do with your dating profile that'll make you better that people don't realize that you like the results I'm getting with girls now are incredible off of dating apps. And I had no idea I could get these kind of results. Like if I didn't love games so much, I'd almost like focus full time on the dating apps.
For sure. I mean, so yeah, so I think unfortunately what happens quite often is someone tries a dating app, right? They don't have success because their profile sucks, because their bio sucks before, because their text game sucks. Usually it's their pictures, right? And then they come to the conclusion that dating apps don't work, right? So it's basically it's a logical fallacy, right? No, dating apps didn't work for you at that period because you were making a series of mistakes. So I'm like, okay, if we fix these things, then dating apps will magically work for you.
That's what people do oftentimes with game too. So a lot of guys will get to a certain level in their game and they just plateau and they just stop there. So with like Karisma and stuff, which actually I'll say this, like the fact that I can talk makes it tenfold easier for me to get girls on dating apps. So a lot of people don't know this. You can actually use on Bumble. There's actually a speaking feature.
Yeah, for sure. I do that all the time.
Yeah, it's a great way to actually connect with a girl. And like when you know the natural flow of a conversation and like how like when you have abundance, it's so easy to message a girl from a place of like, you know, like not needing her. And I can like oftentimes message a girl and she'll start chasing me because of that reasoning, because of like where I'm just coming from. Like that happens quite a bit. But
yeah, it's funny you say that. So basically when you're in a place of abundance, like your texting style will change. Like it'll be small things, but overall will make a difference, right? So you'll just be less needy. You'll be willing to take more risks, you know, because you just don't give a shit, right? Like you're a little bit, you might say that flirty line that came to your head that if you were, you know, if you were in scarcity, you wouldn't say it because you just need that lay. So yeah, for sure. The tricky part is for guys who are in scarcity to then get into abundance, because their scarcity is causing them to fuck up. It's like a chicken and the egg thing. So then we have to like they have to take conscious action to snap out of it, and then they kind of circle around in abundance land.
Well, all right. So I had a guy I was talking to for consultations, and he was convinced that his accent was holding him back. Which is a common thing. Like usually guys will find one or two things that the reason why girls don't like them. They're like physical.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and yeah.
It just comes from like all right. So have you done sales or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
You know,
I've worked in sales for a while.
Yeah. All right. So have you ever sold like at a car lot where they make you wear a suit and tie or something like that? Or like,
no, I did solar sales.
Was your boss like super on point with like, you got to shave your beard or whatnot, or like you got to look a certain way?
No, I actually got really lucky. My boss was this 5-foot redheaded girl, and she was the best salesperson I've ever met. I learned so much from her. Like she looked like the worst salesperson ever. She just looked like a redhead bimbo, big tits, short, kind of goofy, but her sales shit was on point. Like she understood social dynamics better than I would say 99% of the pickup community. And so I learned so much from her about like just picking up on people's, you know, body language, getting to the bottom of the root cause of things. And a lot of that stuff was able to apply to game later on. So yeah, so I got really lucky. I had a really good sales mentor. It's pure luck.
Yeah. Well, like, see, that's pretty dope. I actually don't even know that many girls that are like that great at sales. Whenever you run across one, it's like, you run across one, they're usually incredible at sales though, because their ability to read social cues. Girls just do that a little bit better than guys on average, I feel. Like it's just, they're a little.
Dude, she was lethal. Like she was a way better salesperson than I ever could be. Like it was just insane how good she was.
There's some people that have like a natural knack. So I had this guy named Daniel that was like, used to be an old wing of mine. So the way this guy convinced me to start gaming with him was he told me that he made, so at first he was making $2,000 a week, which I thought was pretty cool. And then he started making like $6,000 a day. Like he just kept like, he just kept amping up, like he kept working on it. And then like we took the sales and we started putting it into like game, and then we started going back and forth with each other, and we'd be like game, sales, game. And we'd just be out every day talking to strangers. Like we actually would like have a clicker where we'd be like 100, 200, like 101, 102, 103 as we're like approaching people throughout the day. Sales is so intertwined with game though, and being better with girls and whatnot. It's like, it's a very close in skill set. not gonna say it's
100% agreed. Yeah, I would say that my game is where it is because I did sales. And here's what I think happens. When you're doing sales, right, you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week sometimes, and you have to approach so many prospects. And like with game, you know, if you don't get laid, like you can still go home and jerk off. If you're doing no fap, whatever, you can go home, smoke weed, and pass out, right? With sales, if you don't hit a quota, you're going to get fired. So you have that fire under your ass, right? So it's going to push you to like really fucking interact with a lot of potential prospects.
Man, there's been so many times with sales where I was up against the wall and I was forced to have to like, you know, figure shit out right there and then. Sales is like, it's so amazing for game. It's amazing. Your
problem solving just skyrockets, right? Because you have to be able to solve problems on the go.
Yeah, and you don't have the luxury of being in your head or being anxious.
No, like you don't have. You say anything that's off, you know. Especially when I was working in the solar industry, it's so competitive. Like all the prospects I was talking to, that had like 10 quotes from different companies. Like everything had to be on point.
Yeah. All right. So, do you remember early on in your game where you'd be approaching, and like you would? So, this is what I think about. So it's like. It's where you go out and you'll approach a bunch of girls, and then maybe like the 10th girl down the line, all right, will be like, oh my God, like you're so incredibly so perfect. Cause like you were like, you've been playing this fucking game for like 10 girls and finally warmed up. You're finally in the good headspace and in good zone. And now the 10th girl's like, oh my God, you're like fucking James Bond or some shit. And you're like, those other last 10 girls didn't think that. It kind of feels like that was sales. Like back, like when I remember back in sales, it kind of felt like every so often where especially when I started working with a new product and I was trying to sell it, it was always like that. It was like, you know, be like, fuck, I can remember every time I'd like mess up or something like that. And I'd just be like mad at myself. Like maybe I twitch or I get in my head with the client, or the client would give me like a rebuttal that I didn't have a line for. And then I'd be like, okay, what should I say to that next time? You know, things like that. It's just like, it's very
for sure. There's like, you know, it's like volume is key. Like there's no good salesperson that doesn't do high volume, right? You have to go through a lot of people, deal with a lot of objections, a lot of concerns, a lot of, you know, hesitation, a lot of just fucking jackassery.
Well, that's another thing too. So that's the thing. All right. With like today's culture, I kind of been getting a little bit miffed about. It's like society doesn't understand how much guys need to be good talkers to be good with girls. Like it's actually almost necessary for you to like be, as a man, you have to be like, have status. You have to be good with other girls. If you like there's no getting around this. If you're attracted to girls, the chances are it's because you have other girls. The chances are it's because you've had a lot of girls that have been at this girl's level, if not even more hot than she is. So then when you talk to her, you can talk to her in a really cool, like relaxed way, or like even in like an engaging way, because you're not invested. It'd be cool if it happened, but you're just like relaxed. You're just like whatever about it. And like a lot of guys in today's society never get that. They're stuck.
I mean, for sure, man. Like a lot of girls, like, you know, when I tell them what I do, they'll be like, oh, but I don't understand. Why don't guys just get a girlfriend? Like, you know, and just have a nice girl. I'm like, because in order for them to get a girlfriend and then keep the girlfriend, they have to stop doing what the fuck they're doing now, because you don't want to date these guys where they're at now, at least most of them, right? Like they're going to be awkward. They're going to be, you know, needy and all that shit. You don't want that. So they have to be able to get past that and basically transform themselves for them to be the kind of guy that you actually want to date.
Well, it's like, so everybody tells themselves that they're special, especially women, because women are a little more emotional than guys. So they have a little bit more of an ability to lie to themselves. So when you tell a girl, like, would you date him? No, but I'm special. I'm weird. Like, I only date these kind of guys. No, you're not weird. You're not weird. The fact that
that's so funny. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true, dude. Yeah, I have some videos on my channel where I do like me and one of my booty calls, we go through like her Tinder and just like roast guys' profiles in real life. And every like 30 seconds she'd be like, well, I personally don't like his profile, but I'm weird. I'm like, no, because the 5 other girls who I made this video with said the same exact thing. They all said, I'm weird, I'm unique, blah, blah, blah. No, you just like good looking guys who don't look awkward, right? Like you're not weird.
Well, it's so, all right. So people want to like tell themselves all these different stories about how they're unique or whatnot. But the thing that makes you actually unique is the fact that you know you're not unique. The fact that you know you're the same as everybody else. And the second you realize that, now you can start looking at your patterns and start switching shit up. Because you keep telling yourself you're different, you're gonna keep riding that fucking like wave. You know, it's just
I mean, I think to clarify, it's more of like whatever issue you're struggling with, there's 1,000 other people who have it. No matter how fucking crazy it is, there's a lot of like, and I think that's the power of the internet, because like, 20 years ago, you thought you were the only one that had this. Now you can find a Facebook group with 10,000 people who have the same exact struggle with you. That was literally me when I was getting into game, right? So I didn't lose my virginity until I was 19. My first, let's say 18, 20 years of my life, I just thought I wasn't picking up girls when I was 2. Let's just say like my first 10 years. Because let's say I started wanting to fuck when I was 12, right? I just thought that I was the only guy that did not have, this figured out, because all my friends in high school, they looked like they were pretty successful with girls, right? And kind of in high school, everyone's putting on a front. So maybe even they're not successful, but they're pretending like they are. So I thought I was just like, something was off with me. I'm like, why does everyone get this? Like, I'm decent looking, like I can talk, I'm not like retarded or something. Why am I not able to understand women? Like, it just made no sense to me. And then when I discovered the book, The Game, I was like, holy shit, like there's other people who have the same exact struggle as me. And that just took so much pressure off me. I was like, finally.
See, that's the funny thing too. So a lot of guys will go out and they'll start approaching, and they tell themselves a story about how they're getting rejected so much, must be terrible with women in comparison to these other guys. But the thing is that every other guy, if he were to do what you're doing, would have the same problem. Unless this guy goes out and is like, or maybe it's just like an unusually charismatic guy, like that top 1% type guy is just unusually charismatic. Like, all right, so girls get told this story about, because no guy's ever gonna tell a girl that he's doing bad with women, because that's just never gonna happen. What he's gonna do is he's gonna try to throw in her face how well he's doing with girls. He's gonna try to, oh yeah, I fuck this girl, I fuck that girl, I fuck this girl, even if he didn't fuck any of them. And he's gonna show pictures of naked girls he probably doesn't even fucking know, or that he never had sex with and shit like that. It's ridiculous. So then women get told about, but most guys are probably going years without having sex, and nobody knows about this, because
for sure.
Because as a man, we're supposed to be killers. We're supposed to be hunters. And if you're not a killer or a hunter, you're a loser. Nobody wants to nobody loves a loser. They love a winner. Yeah. So then you gotta fake it.
That's so true. Like the average guy, like for any guys who are watching this and they're beginners, maybe they're not getting laid that often. The vast majority of guys are having sex like once every 3 months. It's not like your friends, your neighbors, whatever. They're not fucking a new girl every night, even once a week. That's just not what's happening. Like, believe me, because I've asked a lot of people this question. I've done, I have had a lot of clients. Those people are not getting laid nearly as often as you think they are.
Okay, so him and me right now are getting laid more than anybody else and it's because we actually worked at this shit.
Well, I'm actually a virgin, bro, so speak for yourself.
Well, I was going to say, I lost my virginity at 19, too. It's to some, fucking... All right, so just to give you an idea of how attractive this girl was, she was drooling out of both sides of her mouth. Always. Dude,
my girl was really bad also. She was it took me everything. It was in a resort in Mexico. If you're in Mexico on a all-inclusive resort, you should be fucking your girl every day. That's how easy it is.
Yeah.
If I went now. But literally, it was probably one of the fattest girls at the resort. She was wasted. I was wasted. Dude, it was the sex lasted 20 seconds. I don't think she even knew we had sex. Honestly, because it was so quick. She probably thought it was still the foreplay. She's like, "Oh, baby, are you gonna fuck me now?" I'm like, "Oh, I already finished 5 minutes ago." So it was that type of thing. So it was low. I didn't start off a lot of guys think that I was a natural or something like that. Definitely not.
No.
Far from.
Well, all right, so whenever people look at somebody like Michael Jordan, they're like, oh, Michael Jordan, he was just born Michael Jordan. But anybody that has something, oftentimes, all right, sometimes there is the off chance that the person just fell into a good niche. So I've known salesmen, they just got lucky on their first sale and they just got really confident, and all of a sudden they started selling and killing it. But at most levels, and anybody that's killing it in a way that's unusual, that guy did something a little bit different. That guy put in an effort that other people were unwilling to. The fact that you and me are willing to approach and put ourselves out there to get rejected when other guys weren't, made us a little bit different when it comes to game. As opposed somebody that fucking mentally masturbates and tells himself how good they are with girls, because Susie from The Office looked at him once, or maybe said that he looked cute in a certain suit. Now he's now he's a badass. Now he's an attractive dude. Now it's okay.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
I don't need to go out. I got Susie from The Office. Mm-hmm. She was staring at my suit. She was gonna burn a hole with her eyes. I could sense her vagina. Yeah.
Well, all right. So this is the one thing too I thought about. So I used to have this excuse that I realized that every other guy has. And it's so if you're walking along and you see a girl look at you, maybe just even not even checking you out, but she just looks at you, you're like, oh, she checked me out. And then you don't approach her. And you're like, oh, she's probably a slut. I'm not going to approach her. Because you're trying to justify the fact that you don't want to get rejected yourself.
Yeah.
I can remember that when I was young, like 18 or 19. Just like, it wasn't even about the girl, though. It was about me. And most guys are going their entire lives doing this dirty, nasty shit, or they're superimposing their own like insecurities on other people. Like, I don't know if you ever been like, all right, so a person who's cheating, oftentimes they'll accuse their partner of cheating. It's like, if I could, I would. If I was this hot girl, I'd be sleeping with everybody and be like, I would just be a huge ass whore. So she probably is. When these girls are being way more selective than you would ever be in your wildest dreams. Like, these girls are not fucking like almost anybody. Like, they're very selective. So when you approach a girl and she says no, it's not because you're weird or a loser. It's because girls are selective. They only have like one womb that like, and there's a full 8 billion people in society, and she has to decide who she's going to give this womb to. Like, is it going to be you? Because you got to really put yourself out there, especially if you're only talking to her for like 10 minutes. Like, you got to really put yourself like way above her on like in an intellectual like kind of frame or in a status kind of a way. Like, there's a lot.
When it comes to cold approach or just game in general, there's a lot of factors. Guys often think like if they get rejected, it's either something's wrong with me or something's wrong with the girl. But that can be the case, but quite often not. It's more complex than that. Let's take a look at the reasons a girl can reject you. She's just in a bad mood that day. If you talk to her the following day when she was in good mood, she would give you the time of day. She just had a horrible day and she doesn't want to talk to anyone. You're actually not her type. Maybe she likes skinny Asian guys. Maybe she likes big black guys, like whatever. You're just not physically her type, right? Everyone has a type. For example, like me, I like big booty Latinas. So, when I match with a cute, skinny blonde who's tall, like while I can physically appreciate her beauty, like that's not my type. So I'm not going to try to, engage with her. Another reason, let's say that she has a boyfriend and last night they had a talk, or she has a booty call and last night they had a serious talk. Maybe she got laid the night before. Maybe the night before she had a date where the guy was a real asshole and now she's over men for a few days. Maybe she's into girls. Maybe, she saw you're wearing the shirt and it reminded her of another guy who was wearing the same shirt. There's so many factors that are outside, that can be attributed to you getting rejected.
All right, so I was writing down a couple things that you said there because I wanted to come back to them. So I thought through for a long time on the rejection thing. And what's really funny is that when you get really good and you start kind of cleaning yourself up, what you start realizing is most of the reasons that you get rejected aren't even you. It's mainly the girl. And it's kind of mitigating the girl's insecurities and trying to make sure that you're not too cool, but also not too boring or too loserish. It's also like you're trying to like, it's like this massive balancing act. You got to play with the fucking girl to make sure. Like, there was one time where I didn't know this, but like I was kind of stuck and I couldn't move. And this girl was walking with her friends and she couldn't come back to me because then it looked like she was investing in me, even if she thought that I was like cool or whatnot. And I didn't realize this at the moment because she would have lost ego coming back to me in that current moment, in the moment where she was there. So instead, what I should have done was like, I should have, maybe I should have walked with and like stopped being lazy or some shit. But there's like, well, here, let me actually get back to this. So with the looks thing too, I told you this is kind of like something that I'm like super weird about. But all right, so at a certain level, when you're out of it, yeah, it does kind of matter because like, how do I put it? It's like you're not Attila the fucking Hun. Like when I'm out of it, like the looks matter a lot more because if I look like her ex or I look like some guy that she has like a fantasy with, obviously it's gonna matter a lot more. But if I get like a more of a woke zone, so like there's a place that I get to whenever I'm out gaming where I just get so supremely confident, where I just like where my eye contact's like just on point where I'm like
you enter a flow state basically. That's the scientific explanation. You enter a flow state.
Those girls will always backwards rationalize all of a sudden why they like me. So I'm dating like this like model, like this girl that does OnlyFans. She's like a legit like hardcore dime. Like she looks like a porn star. And it was funny, like after our second date, like at first she was kind of super lukewarm about me, but as she kept hanging out with me, she started looking through my phone. She's like, you know what, actually, you have a great smile. You know what, actually, I love your eyebrows. And I was like, cool. Like girls will find a reason why they like you. Like the reason they actually find guys like attractive in certain places is oftentimes because like rationalizations, but like I'll talk to a girl now she thinks that she likes me because of my smile, not because I'm actually a badass motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, so backwards rationalization is huge. So for example, say a girl sleeps with a guy and say maybe she was just really horny that night and say it was just perfect timing on the guy's part. Like say the guy's not good looking, he's not her type, but just things line up that night. Then the next day she's going to backwards rationalize. Well, he actually has this, he actually has that. Now let's take the opposite scenario. Say a guy comes close to having sex with a girl, but sex doesn't happen, right? Let's say that it was through no fault of the guys, and let's say that maybe the timing was bad. Like right? Like maybe she would have fucked him if there was more time, but things didn't line up, right? She goes home. Next day, she starts backwards rationalizing. Well, sex didn't happen. Well, it's probably, he kind of said this joke. I didn't really like that. And I usually go for slightly taller guys. So then it goes in the complete other direction. So,
but it had nothing to do with but it had nothing to do with the fact that he was actually that was the reason, was because he wasn't acting like a badass. And so she's back rationalizing why she doesn't like him now.
Backwards rationalizing. This is why big thing I teach is that, listen, if you like a girl, don't play the long game. Try to sleep with her as fast as possible, obviously as long as she feels comfortable, because then she's going to backwards rationalize why she likes you, right? That's one of the most powerful things you can do. Some guys will be like, yeah, but this chick, she's wife material. Like, I really want to, that's why I went on 5 dates with her and I still haven't made a move. I'm like, dude, if you keep doing that, she's going to backwards rationalize that you're a friend zone material. If you like a girl and you want to fucking lock her down, then one of the best things you can do is sleep with her as fast as possible. Then, of course, be compassionate, cuddle with her, do all that shit, do some cutesy stuff, but sex is a key component.
Yeah, but see, all right, so this is the thing that will get, a lot of girls pissed off because they don't understand the guy's plight. So guys have a hard time in upfront. The upfront, for most guys, is impossible. For us, it's a lot easier, I imagine. I'm not exactly, I'm actually right now trying to slow down on sex with my shit. But, for most guys, it's the relationship's easy. The second you get sex, the relationship after is easy. Girls though, kind of depending on the
so depends on the guy, bro. I know so many guys that get so fucking needy. They can't fuck up so many possible situations because say they're hooking up with a girl, it's their booty call. She doesn't owe him anything. Maybe they've only hung out twice and she doesn't text him back that night because maybe she fell asleep. Maybe she's fucking hanging out with her best friends, some totally innocent reason, which it usually is the majority of the time. And then they start blowing up her phone. I've had girls who I'm hooking up with show me this shit. She's like, yeah, this guy was cool when he talked to me, but look at this. Since I've been here, he has texted me 20 fucking times. Now I'm no longer attracted to him. So I think a lot of guys really struggle with neediness. I think also a lot of guys have this complex. They think that they're good in bed when they're not. So they're like, well, I fucked her for 10 minutes, but the girl never came, right? So I think that's another huge component of it. It has to be a good sexual experience for the girl.
Well, for guys, all right, so this is the problem. We're in this giant society and guys have to somehow convince themselves in comparison that they're awesome. So they create this false world in their head and they start believing it too. If you can't become LeBron James, well, then you better start faking it because nobody's going to love you if you're not LeBron James. So you fake it for so long and eventually because you're faking it for so long, you keep telling the same story, you start believing your own bullshit. And then here I come saying, hey man, look, you can actually do a lot better with girls. He's like, no, I can't. Dude, I honestly should be doing your job. Your job seems easy because it's so easy getting laid for me. And you're like, man, you're not getting it. It's just impossible to talk to those people because they're so buried in their own lies. It gets to the point, this is deep psychology, but it's they're so buried in their own lies that you can't pull them out anymore. They're fucked. They're dead. They're dead. There's no getting through to them at that point. With money, with success, with women, friendships, changing their personalities, psychology, that person is buried. He's buried in a deep narcissistic framework. And it's just no getting him.
So we're kind of getting into self-awareness, right? So let's take a look at the spectrum. What the guys you're talking about, they have no self-awareness at all. So they just cannot look at themselves in an honest way, which is bad. Those guys are really hard to coach because they get trapped in ego. On the other spectrum, sometimes you have guys, it's not as common, but who have too much self-awareness, where they're overly, it's almost turns into OCD, where they're over-analyzing everything and anything. They're dude, she didn't respond to this text, so it means because this. I'm like, no, dude, it's late. She'll probably text you back tomorrow. Or, yeah, her phone probably died. No, don't, go too deep into it. There's a healthy balance in the middle where you can look at yourself in an honest way and be like, yeah, you know what? This is why I'm fucking up. This is what I'm doing right. This is what I could do better.
Well, that's actually, I have a term for that. I call it a hammer and a butter knife type personality. Usually you need the opposite of what the other guy has. If you're the hammer where you can't read social cues and you're just so stuck in your own reality, you probably need the butter knife who's a little bit too aware of his reality. The butter knife needs to be the other guy's completely just over the top confident for no reason and has just this inability to read, social cues. They need each other. It's almost usually it'll turn out to be kind of codependent and a narcissistic thing, but for the most part, they at least help each other out when it comes to game.
Yeah. What I will say is narcissism can actually be I'm not recommending anyone to become a narcissist.
Oh, no, fuck
First
no.
of all, I don't think it's something that you can even control. You're either a narcissist or you're not. You can make yourself less of a narcissist through self-awareness. But narcissists, they usually have a easy time banging girls because initially it looks like confidence, but they have a hard time maintaining healthy relationships because eventually the girl gets tired of this shit. So it's like, it'd be helpful initially, but honestly, like if you're a narcissist, you need self-awareness.
They're really good at like faking a personality for a period of time. So I actually used to be like, so I was a codependent for a long time, and I switched over to narcissist, which I got laid like a motherfucker when I was like.
How do you switch to become a narcissist?
Okay, so this like I was too nice for too long. I was always so quiet, and I was I was so angry, like at the world, and I was just so fed up with like how I was like I thought I was a nice guy. How I thought that this nice guy personality wasn't getting me what I wanted, how I was just getting kind of walked on. I said, fuck that. And so I got angry. And so the thing is that codependency and narcissism are really close together. They both are coming from the place of lacking an internal locus of control or like a self-identity. So because you lack the self-identity, you need to force the world in some way. So either you're either a god in your own mind or you're a worm. Like that's how this works. Because if you don't have a self-identity, either one, you're a worm and you're worthless. And people are lucky, and you're lucky if people like you. Or two, you're a god in your own reality, and you just say, fuck it, like, I'm gonna like force the world to act a certain way. So narcissists, what they do is they try to force the world to feedback give them the feedback that they're awesome all the time. Yeah. And so, whereas the codependent is like, please just love me, you know? And so like, it's like, it actually is an easy transition. They're both really close together. And then I got in trouble when I was a heavy narcissist. I pissed off the wrong girl, and I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was like, dude, honestly, like, being evil is not really worth it. I'd rather be a good person. And what's actually funny is girls actually started liking me even more because of that. And like, I have girls chasing me harder because of that. Like before they would like, I would get sex with a lot of like average and cute girls. But now like the dime pieces are the ones that I'm like fucking around with. And it's because I did that. Like I made that little switch, you know, like it was a lot easier to make that little subtle switch. And now like, it's a lot easier to get like dimes because now I'm actually me. I'm authentic. So it's easier.
I mean, it's definitely better in the long term. Like narcissists don't have real relationships. This is the way I would explain it, because a lot of people ask me like, okay, what exactly is a narcissist? I think a lot of people don't really understand. So a sociopath is someone who understands what people are feeling and chooses to disregard that. So I can tell what I'm doing is making you uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it, right? That's what a sociopath. A narcissist doesn't know what he's doing is causing negative things. So a narcissist isn't choosing to be an asshole. They just don't know that they're being an asshole, right? They have no idea. And you can tell them and they'll be like, nah, no way, you really think so? Like I've had one of my really good friends, Gak, actually learned a lot from a game. I was a hardcore narcissist, and he literally like, he didn't start changing until he actually got a girlfriend. I think like every night she would sit him down. She'd be like, hey man, or not hey man, but I don't want to say his name. But anyway, she's like, you did this, which is so fucking, you know, made me feel like such shit. And like literally it took like, I don't know, months of this to like re-hardwire his brain for him to be understand, you know what? Now I can sort of understand other people's emotions. He's like, hey Alex, you know, I realized that time when I left you at the airport, that was probably not cool, right? I was like, yeah, probably not cool, man. Probably should not leave your best friend left at the airport just because you had pussy that night. Probably not the not really good friend behavior, but hey, you didn't know at the time, so it's all good.
Well, as a narcissist, you're incapable of making real connections with people, which is something that I really wanted. I would talk to like so many people in a day because I was just obsessed with game, and I still felt so lonely. And I realized the reason I still felt lonely is because I never made a real connection. I never actually dropped the facade of who I thought, like this facade of like this person that I was trying to present myself always. Like I always had a mask up to everybody. And then eventually, because as a narcissist, you hold this mask up of, I'm this person, look at me, I'm this person. When you know, there's really honestly behind that mask of massive confidence, there's like this kid behind it, like crying. And like, you got to kind of like teach yourself to kind of drop the facade at some point. Because if you can't, you're never going to you're going to be alone the rest of your life. Like that's the truth behind it. Like you're going to forever be alone. Like, and not because you can't get people, but because you can never actually make those real connections because you're always having a facade. And when the facade does drop and when you have a girl around for a while, you're just like, you're not treating her like a person, you're treating her like an object. Because she's an object of your reflection. She's supposed to reflect back to you what you are. It's not that you love her for who she is. You love her because she reflects back to you who you are. So she gives you that identity that you lack because you're a narcissist.
Yes, you're not going to, as a narcissist, you're not going to have a healthy long-term relationship with a girl who's healthy emotionally, right? If you are a narcissist, your relationships long-term are going to be with girls who have emotional issues and who like to be abused and stuff like that subconsciously. So yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, my audience knows how much, like, all right, so Julian, like, a lot of people will talk about, yeah, like, I remember back in the day when RC Julian would do, like, a lot of his fucked up kind of, like, you know, more, and I wouldn't say it's fucked up, but he would, like, he'd push the emotions and he'd, like, say things to girls to, like, kind of get an emotional reaction out of them. You don't do that without, huh?
My take on this, I don't think Julian is narcissist at all.
Oh, no.
I've actually met him. I've met him several times. I think he's a nice guy. I think that Julian was just basically, he has like a kind of fucked up sense of humor, and I have the same exact fucked up sense of humor. And he was basically just trolling and almost seeing what he could get away with. But what a lot of guys don't realize when they're watching those videos, when he's calling a girl dog, that's not really how he gets laid. That's shit he's doing for a laugh on YouTube. Like, you know how he gets laid in real life? Hey, my name is Julian. Can I say hi? Like that, like normal shit. Like weird pickup-y shit is not what gets you laid. It's funny. It gets views on YouTube, but a lot of guys weren't able to make that leap. So then they go out and they call girls dog, and then they get kicked out of a bar, and they're like, what the fuck?
Well, there's a type of girl, unfortunately, that like when you push on them, they do respond to it, but it's because
yes,
they're narcissistic.
Yes. A small percentage of girls that will actually
on a date. They're
work
definitely
on, yes.
you around.
It's not a good overall strategy. Like, you know, like much better strategy is to be a normal guy, introduce yourself. Hey, Alex, nice to meet you.
Be an authentic guy that's like actually legitimately cool and like doesn't need anything from the girl. And when you approach her, then like usually the high quality girls will see that and they'll want to fuck your brains out. But you know, if you're talking to a girl that's had like really bad like trauma in her childhood or some shit, and she's a hot girl, oftentimes like those girls can be more in the narcissistic frame. But those are the kind of girls that will like they usually lean towards theatrical narcissism, which is like the state where like everything has to be like, if they're not the victim of their world, then they don't have self-identity. And eventually when the victim, like when the things to point at and blame run out, you're going to be the next thing to blame. And that's when you're fucked. Because second she's going to blame you, you're about to get like thrown under the fucking bus. There's nothing she won't say about you to prop up her ego and her narcissism. Like she'll destroy your life. And that's why you don't fuck with them.
Yeah, you don't want to date those girls. Like, again, I've hooked up with a lot of girls like that. But these are not the girls who like. All the girls who I see long term, every single one of them are girls who my mom would love, because they're all sweet, they're all nice, they're all genuine, they all have jobs, they're all smart, like whatever. They're all cool, normal, sweet girls. Like, again, I've hooked up with plenty of these party girls. Like, okay, fun for a night, but not the girls I want to keep around long term. Like, not the girls that I want to rely on, not the girls I want to take a trip with. Like, no. But one thing I do want to comment back to Julian. So I actually think that most RSD products are total garbage, with the exception of Julian's product, Pimp. So I actually thought Pimp was a really solid product. And this part about it that I really like is when he talked about the 4 pillars of internal game. So what he said was, this was so long ago when I watched it, but purposeful, grounded, controlled, and self-amused. And I think that's very true. The one thing I will add is dominant. So you throw dominant to the mix. That's kind of my take on it. And then those are the pillars of, solid internal game. You're purposeful. So you're not beating around when you talk to a girl, you're not like wishy-washy. Like, you're not pretending like you're just trying to be her friend, right? That's the mistake. Like, I see guys at the gym, right? Like, one guy was like, I hit on a girl, got her number, right? And then another guy afterwards was like literally trying to pick up my scraps, which was kind of low value to begin with, but I don't give a shit, right? Because I knew he was going to strike out. So, and he's like trying to pretend to be the girl's friend. Like, he's like, yeah, we'll just hang out, just friends. You can use a friend, right? A gym buddy. Like, that's not my approach. My approach is like, hey, you're cute. Like, we should grab a drink sometime. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to fuck you, but like, I'm pretty purposeful, right? Second part of it is grounded. So like, when the girl throws shit at you, you're not like, oh, you don't start freaking out. You're just like the rock, the pillar in her life. Third, controlled, which is everything you do is like smooth. So you're not like choppy. You're not like, let's get out of here and have sex. Like, you're smooth, like, hey, let's get out of here. And then, of course, self-amused, right? You can have fun. Like, you don't rely on the girl, which is also, I think guys really take that one out of proportion and they try to like go too far being self-amused. But I think that, to clarify, that self-amused means that you can just have fun. You can have a laugh. Like, you don't need anyone else in your life. You can just have a good time in a social situation. It doesn't mean that you need to be like a dancing monkey. And you throw dominant to the mix, and those, in my opinion, what it means to have good internal game.
Yeah, the dominance thing is like, all right, so I call it like kind of punching through the wall. So like what most guys will do is they'll punch at the wall, and they're not willing. So they'll approach a girl and they'll try to be like some congenial version of who they are. Hey, how's it going? I'm this nice guy that's not willing to like offend you. And then it's like,
lack of purpose. Yep.
yeah, like as opposed to like approaching her and just being like you, even if the girl's gonna hate you. But what's funny is because if you're willing to actually like I'll approach a girl and I'll insinuate at times when I'm talking to her that I'm out of her league, jokingly, obviously. Like I'm not trying to put her down, but I'll say it jokingly, like that I'm out of her league. But like, what other guy would do that? Like, I'm punching through the fucking wall. Like I'm telling her, like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're not like playing it safe. You're kind of you're having fun with it. You're not like a lot of guys. They play too safe, right? So they're like they want to take the safest path, but that's not attractive to girls. Girls want the guy that's a little bit of a bad boy, right? The part where guys fuck up is they sometimes take it too far, and they just act. You have to be while being a bad boy. You have to be calibrated, right? And so you can't be like a fucking clown or embarrass her like a dancing monkey. Like that's when you take it too far. But as long as you don't do that, like girls like it when you're like edgy, when you're exciting.
Girls. All right. So what I
love edgy.
There's like one thing, like so all the things you just mentioned. There's like one thing that like umbrellas them all out, and it's status. It's like, do I think that I'm at this girl or above? And am I acting like I'm above this girl's in status? And like girls don't want to date guys below their status or below their level. They don't even want to date a guy at their level. They want to date a guy that's like way above, like beyond them. And you're not going to do that by being, hey, how's it going? It's nice to meet you. Like, no, dude, nobody wants to fuck you. Like, dude, like it's, I need to stop cussing. So it comes down to where it's like, if you're half-assed in it and you don't really think you're like, if you don't do things in your life that like tell you that you're like a dime piece, if you don't go out and talk to girls, if you don't like put yourself out there, you don't actually hustle, like it's kind of tough to like approach a girl and like have all those fucking things. It's tough. Like you gotta like.
So I think what you're getting at is sexual market value, which is something I talk about a lot. So girl makes an opinion of your sexual market value before you even open your mouth, right? So how good you look, who are you with? What are you wearing, right? Are you dressed like a homeless guy? Are you dressed like really fashionably and trendy? Like just all these factors. How do you carry yourself, right? Before you even open your mouth, and it's all subconscious. Like, okay, this guy is a 7, right? I consider myself this. Now, sometimes what a girl considers herself does not line up to reality. Sometimes you have a 6 who considers her a 10. Sometimes you have a 10 who has low self-esteem and considers herself a 6. So that often happens. But generally speaking, it doesn't matter what she really is. It matters what she thinks she is, right? So then what quite often happens is as soon as the guy opens his mouth, his sexual market value, it's hard for it to increase, but it's very easy for it to decrease based on dumb shit that the guy says. So it's very often that a guy, good looking guy, right? He's successful, whatever. He hits on a girl. Initially, she's all about it, but then he says dumb shit that makes her think, okay, yeah, he's actually, I thought he was cool, but he's actually meh.
Yeah, well, it's like, it comes back to it again. It's like, so I'll have approaches where like it'll go really well with like a certain type of girl, but then another type of girl will get it because she thinks she's a little higher than the approach itself, and she'll reject me because I'm like maybe below her. Like this is actually really funny. If you want to get really weird with this shit, like an ugly girl, if I approach an ugly girl right now, she'll reject me fast, and it's like, it's because like, so here, do you want to explain this? Because I figured it out.
Yeah. Can you explain this? I'm kind of curious.
Okay, so the reason that an ugly girl will reject you is because in her head, she's never dated a guy that looks like you. She's never talked to a guy as cool as you. Whenever it comes down to dating, like for the most part, like you're just not the guy. You're the type of guy maybe fuck her and leave, but you're not the guy to stick around. So she gets a little mad at you maybe. Like she's like, oh no, not this guy again. I've talked to this guy hundreds of times. That one. 2, it's like, what's a better outcome? I talk to this guy and eventually I get rejected. Or 2, I just reject him right now. I go back to my friends and say, hey, this cool guy came and approached me, and I reject him because I'm awesome. And then she gets a little ego boost. So she'll reject a cool guy. But if you come up like super shy and shit, she's a lot more likely to actually open up to you because now you're on her level, because now you're a loser.
I see what you're saying. Here's my take on this. I think that can definitely apply sometimes. I don't think every ugly girl is like that. So I think that some unattractive girls, ugly girls, but some unattractive girls are actually, they might have really good self-esteem, right? So I think it comes down to the girl's self-esteem. And some ugly girls have high self-esteem. She's like, you know what? I'm not the most attractive girl. I'm successful. I'm awesome. Like, I think I'm the shit, even though I'm not that attractive. I've encountered so many of those. And then, of course, on the other spectrum, you have hot girls who have very low self-esteem, and they might reject you for that same exact reason. You know, she thinks you're way above her, but in reality, like, she's actually a fucking dime piece. So you have a lot of those kind of weird situations.
Well, your ego is constantly fighting to give you what you think you deserve, I find. It's like, it's constantly like, so if you're in a money situation where you're like you're like, this isn't me, and you just feel super uncomfortable, your brain's going to find a way to make money. If you're in a situation where like your girl is like not attractive enough for you, you're going to end up breaking up with her either through you like subconsciously sabotaging, or like if I take a client out in a boot camp, I point out a girl for him to go talk to. What ends up happening is I'll be like, hey, go talk to her. And he'll be like, who are you talking about? And I'll have to repeat myself like half a dozen times before the client goes, oh, that girl. I'm like, yes, let's fucking talk to her. And the reason being is because what's going on in this guy's head is like, this girl I've never had good results with. So if I were to even talk to this girl, I get rejected. So there's nothing but negative consequence to approaching her. So I don't see her as an option. She's not a girl I talk to in a club like this. So then he's got like, blocks her out.
Game involves basically rewiring a lot of subconscious things, right? You have to consciously force yourself to do things that your subconscious doesn't want to do.
Yeah. Well, you don't notice. So game, I think, is the best thing to teach yourself interpersonal intelligence. And the cool thing about interpersonal intelligence is if you
what does that mean, interpersonal intelligence?
It's like, it's where you
using all these fancy words on me. I'm just a simple YouTuber from Miami. We don't got no interpersonal around here.
Dude, I'm a weird ass about psychology. Like, I study this shit all the time. Like, so interpersonal intelligence is like, you understand what's going on with you. You understand what's going on in your head to some extent. And like, when you start understanding yourself, you can start understanding others. So if I talk to a girl, like, which girls, obviously, they have a different way of getting turned on and getting attracted to a dude. But it's like, you know, I can still, because I understand me, I can get where they're at. I can understand on some level what's going on in their head. And so it helps me out a little bit because I understand myself. So that's the best thing about, again, interpersonal intelligence, which is like just like the understanding of like how you work and what you, like your functions and like why you do the things you do. Like that, when you understand it, it's a lot easier to kind of like mold yourself and move yourself in a direction, I guess you could say.
I think another something that's related to what you just said is also being able to read people. And that's something that sales taught me really well. But like sometimes, dude, I'm able to, after talking to a girl for 2 minutes, like make a series of educated guesses about her life. And the girl will be like, holy shit, have you been stalking me? No, I just have really good pattern recognition. And you said this and this, that makes me conclude this and this. Like, I'm very good at picking up on girls' kinks and stuff like that, right? So like, I can usually tell by her body language what she says, more or less what she's going to be into sexually and what she's not. And then when I tell her that, she's like, holy shit, like, what are you, creeping outside my bedroom, jerking off? Like, how the fuck do you know that? Yeah, for sure. I think another important thing that you kind of what we were talking about earlier, the girl's mood. So aside from, you know, the status, the sexual market value, your game, the girl's mood that day can vary. Like, for example, I think this was a few months ago. I was going to the gym. I see a hot girl just chilling outside, right? Approach her. Like, my game was on point that day. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I think a beginner intermediate might like try to think the fault was them, but like literally I was like, hey, how's it going? She's like, hi. I was like, yeah, I just want to meet you. I think we go to the same gym. She's like, okay. I was like, cool. So you just finished your workout? Or she's like so fucking non-compliant, non-responsive. And then like literally a week later, I saw her at Whole Foods, and then just kind of, I was like, okay, she was weird. Like, I didn't get her number or anything. I was just kind of waving at her. She waved back at me. I'm like, hey. She's like, hey, I remember you. It's like, yeah. And then like the conversation was totally fucking different. Like, she was like a normal person. And literally later I found out that she was just like in a weird mode that day. Like, she just was stressed about her job interview or something like that. So literally same exact girl, same exact guy, same exact game, different, you know, whatever, different day, had totally different outcomes. So.
Well, here, okay, so this is actually something that, all right, so I treat game really weird. And like, I have weird ass like little games I play with myself to kind of like teach myself like, all right, so I'm in this headspace. This is how this headspace guy games. This is how this headspace guy games. And when I'm warming up and I'm not like, so I call it the emotional gas mask. So emotions are contagious. When a girl's coming across that kind of energy, sometimes I will hit her in like an abrasive way to get her to kind of like, you know, to recognize that I don't need that. But for the most part, what I'll oftentimes do is I'll overwhelm her with my good emotions. So then she changes her emotions. It's just like a matter of if I can stay in her face long enough. If I can stay in her face long enough and just like there was a time where like, I was talking to this girl and her friend pushed her into a fountain with her phone in her pocket, fucked up her phone, and she was pissed. And it was going decently well up to that point. Like, it was going decent. And I was like, fuck. Well, she's like, fuck you, we're leaving. And she starts walking off. I'm like, well, I'm not about to leave the set. So I jump back in and start talking to her while she's quickly walking off. And she would say something about like the situation. I make a joke out of it. And then she'd say something else and I make a joke about it. Maybe she'd make a joke, like talk about her friend. I made a joke about it. Eventually I got her laughing so hard, her emotions changed and I went and fucked her in a bush. Like, so it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like that's what I focus on when it comes to that. But I can't do that when I'm warming up. My emotions aren't handled. I'm like, I just got to the club. Like, I don't feel like talking to people.
Are you a big proponent of like state and like warm-ups and all that stuff?
I am, yeah, but I don't think when you're out gaming you should believe in state, because like the believing in state's gonna try to force it and you're gonna end up like not getting into it. It's like the understanding of it and understanding what you have to do to get in the state is powerful, but like fixating on it when you're out and like, you know, like I need state, I can't do this unless I'm in state, like kind of just fucks you over. So you have to kind of like, a lot of it is taking the pressure off yourself and focusing on what matters or what you have control over, I guess you could say.
Yeah, reading the book, The Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler definitely helped my understanding of this. Because what's it called? There's like at first I thought it was just like, oh, this game thing, like, you know, but there's a scientific, very established scientific explanation. It's called the flow state. Pickup artists are not the only ones that get into it. In fact, there's salespeople get into flow states. You know, professional athletes get into flow states. Like even artists, whatever. Like there's different kinds of flow states, and there's different ways to access them. So it's like when I read that book, I kind of was like, okay, this is not some weird thing. It's a scientific thing. But one of the components to get into flow state, yes, you have to take the pressure off yourself. You can't force yourself to get into flow state. You can't be like, flow. Like that's just not how it works. So
it's kind of like falling backwards. It's not something you can force. All right. All right. Here, I'm just going to go for it. So what I realized with state, what state actually is the alignment, like as a lot of people have heard in the past, it's the alignment of words and actions. But see, so when you go out to the club, you're not aligned with the action of talking to a girl. So what you have to do is you have to force your ego in that direction. And what ends up happening is that when you force in that direction and you keep forcing yourself to like, so I don't feel like talking to people. I give people eye contact. I talk to girls. I make friends with the guys over here. I'm forcing, my ego's like, I'm not an outgoing person, but I keep giving it the action saying, no, I am. Now, eventually you keep going through ego death. And eventually what your ego has to do is be like, wait, all the actions we're taking says we're outgoing. So we must be an outgoing guy. And then what ends up happening is now you're aligned with your actions and your thoughts. The ego and the actions. So your actions feed your ego and your egos feed your action. So when you change the actions, you have to change the character. And when the characters change, the actions become tenfold easier. So it's like you keep forcing the action, you keep approaching girls when you don't feel like it, and eventually your ego's like, oh, maybe we are an outgoing guy. And then it's like easy. And that's how it works.
So I think, consciously, I think with enough repetitive action, you can change your identity.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what they talk about in the book. I didn't fucking come up with this, but this guy, Stephen, did. So basically, one of the key components to enter a flow state is that the challenge level of whatever you're doing, you can be talking to girls, game, snowboarding, whatever, it has to be 10% harder than what you're comfortable with. So for example, let's say a guy, has never done cold approach, and I throw him into a crazy hard situation. He's not going to get into a flow state because the challenge level is way too high for him. He's going to freeze up. Say you got a guy who's really, really good at game, right? And to him, cold approach is easy. And, I tell him to go and approach, easy sets, right? He's not going to get into a flow state either because it's too easy, right? So it has to be, the challenge level has to be it's like, got to be something that you're kind of hesitant. You don't really want to do it. You're like, I don't know. But you can't be like, there's no way. Like, that's not going to put you in a flow state. It can't be like easy peasy. Like, that's also probably not going to put you in a flow state. The challenge level has to be just right.
Well, most guys, what they'll do is they'll stack on like 20 like things they need to work on in a night. And what do you think is going to happen when you stack on 20 things in a night? You're not going to do very good. You're going to do pretty fucking terribly with girls. Like I'm
not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of guys like going out like, okay, I need to, because I feel like it forces you to be gamey and not natural. Like, oh, I need to work on my, this, I need to work on my that. Like, I think that's the wrong mindset. I think it's okay to have a few things in the back of your mind. You're like, you know what? I've noticed that I bounce out sets too easily. That's something that, I should keep in mind, right? But then like, I don't like, I'm going to go out and work on this. Like, I feel like it's a bad mindset. Like, I'm going to go out to have fun and fuck girls. That's the reason I go out. Like, there's no other reason why I go out. It's to laugh with my friends, fuck girls. Really, that's it, right? So I'm not going out to work on shit. Now, I do sometimes have things in the back of my mind. But again, I think that there's a big mistake in the community. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect sometimes between the pickup artist and everyone else at the place, because sometimes they make this like the pickup in like this whole almost like a secret society type of thing, and they're standing out too much from like the regular people who are going to have fun. There can't be that huge disconnect.
Yeah, well, all right. So like what I teach my clients is like you're just talking about. You practice like one or two or three things at a time, maybe. Like, then you can still be yourself. Like, you know, if you're going out and like my thing,
it's just like in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay,
yeah.
you know what? I realized last time I went out, I was bouncing out sets too easily. Like that's a personal one that actually relates to me. Like sometimes I do that. Like today I was at Starbucks and it was just hot MILF, started talking to her, but she was kind of in a rush. And like, I could have just been like, hey, listen, before you go, let me get your number. But it's like, I have this tendency sometimes to just like let things go too easily when it's like in those situations where I'm just like whatever, abundance, right? Which is a good mindset sometimes, but really I could be a little bit better at following up. So it's like in the back of my mind, but I'm not going to Starbucks. I'm not like, you know what? I'm going to focus on following up more with girls, right? Because that's just going to make me like, hi, can I get, like, it's going to make me choppy and gamey.
Yeah. Well, like you were just talking about 10% harder, not like, you know, don't make it like 100% harder because you're going to obviously overthink it and it's going to be way outside of your level. Like if you can't approach, don't approach, work on your eye contact, try to get the phone number and try to make the phone number solid, or like try to get the date while you're getting the phone number. Like work on one thing, like work on the bottleneck, like you were saying earlier. Like find the bottleneck, what's going to get you the most amount of improvements with the shortest period of time invested, or maybe is even holding you back in a lot of areas, and then like get rid of that fucking thing. Like, you know, like for most guys, it's just approaching. Like you're not approaching at all. Like start approaching. Like a lot of the issues will get fixed. Like that's your bottleneck. Quit listening to me talking about all this advanced shit. Just start approaching. But at a certain point, then like, you know, you can start adding more onto it.
Yeah, I tell this to a lot of clients. So often guys will be like, well, you know, what do you do on the date? You know, like I just, you know, like I have this whole complex routine. And then, you know, when I move my hand here, I move her hand there. I'm like, dude, how the fuck do you even get hard with all of that in your mind? It looks like you're fucking writing an algebra paper or something, like, you know, working on some crazy shit. Like literally, well, this is what I always tell guys. You come from a long line of guys who got laid, right? Like your dad got laid, your grandpa got laid, his grandpa got laid, right? It's in your DNA. Like you have that, like 5,000 years ago, like they didn't have, or even 50 years ago, they didn't have like, you know, pickup guides. It's just like a man had to rely on his instincts. Your instincts are going to be better off most of the time than, well, if they're your, I'm talking about primal instincts. Like, you know, like you're in a room alone with a girl, like you don't need to have an exact game plan. Like your body should be able to kind of just take over your subconscious. And if you put too much shit in your conscious mind, like you can get choppy and get like, you know, like for example, when I have a girl over, right, I'm not thinking exactly how I'm going to make a move. Now, of course, I know game pretty well. I know some things are going to work better, but generally speaking, like I just let my dick do the work, right? Like, okay, like two, and just like fucking, I'm not saying that, you know, if you have no idea of game, like sometimes it is important to consciously overcome bad habits, but generally speaking, it's not so much about learning new techniques. It's getting rid of bad things that you have that are holding you back majority of the time.
Yeah. Well, all right. So here, I'll give you an example of like some clients that I've worked with. Well, actually, this is a really common one. If you come across a guy that's too fucking nice, like he'll approach to the end of the earth, but he's too fucking nice. So what I'll do with that guy is like oftentimes like that guy's an ego about being a nice guy. That guy's taken actions for like fucking 20, 30 plus years being a nice guy. Now here I come like, we got to fix this because you think you're a nice guy. Like this isn't who you actually are. You create this false identity because you think it's getting you something from the world, which it's actually doing nothing but taking from the world. Yes. So we make you more yourself. So you got to push the opposite end of the spectrum for a little bit. You got to like, dude, be a fucking badass, be a fucking asshole for a month. Allow yourself this and breaks it back. Now you can be yourself more after that month.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah. So if you got a guy who's too much of a nice guy, it makes sense to go too far to one extreme as a temporary thing to get him closer to the middle. It's not forever. It's just he needs to go so far to the other direction and realize that, you know, if you're a little bit of a dick, like nothing bad's going to happen to you. Like, of course, it's not how you should live your life, but like the world's not going to end. Because usually those nice guys, they're not being a nice guy because, you know, I say nice guy. They're not being a nice guy because they're generally nice. They're being a nice guy because they're worried that if they express themselves, something bad is going to happen. So when they go too far in the other direction and express themselves, nothing bad happens, then they become more comfortable with like being themselves.
Well, do you ever read the book Compelling People? Like, have you heard of this?
No.
All right. So, by the way, I wrote down your book, Rise of the Superman, because I heard of it. I actually wanted to read it.
Great book. Yeah.
I've heard of it. And I saw the cover back probably 5 years ago. And I was thinking at the time I needed to buy the book and I never did. But anyway, so the idea is that so there's three different people, okay? All right, now which person is most compelling? So first you got this is gonna be an obvious answer, by the way. You got a homeless guy. The homeless guy has no money. He has nothing going for him, but he loves the show.
Homeless guy.
Homeless guy, yeah. Homeless guy, get him. The second guy is this, he's a rich guy, has money, but he hates your ass. He's like, fuck you, I don't like you. Now, the third guy, he's a king, has money, and he loves the shit out of you. Obviously, it's the last guy.
Yeah.
This guy has abundance, and he's nice to you. He's probably just a good person. Like, he doesn't need anything from you. He's just being a nice guy. Like, that's what girls, that's where it comes from with girls. Like, if you're like holding a door open for a guy, you're like, for a girl, like you're trying to do something because you need something from her. Because it's not like you're not in abundance in your life. You need her.
I see exactly where you're going with.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with that. Being nice when you are obviously in a place of abundance is going to have a totally different effect than, because if you're like, when a homeless guy even like gives you a compliment, you think that he like wants something from you. Like
he wants money.
You're like, hey man, that's a nice shirt. You're like almost reluctant to say thanks because you think that he's going to hit you up for money. He might be giving you a genuine compliment, right? But like say like a guy who looks like say Leonardo DiCaprio is walking down the street and he's like, hey man, that's a cool shirt you got out there. Like same exact statement is going to have a totally different feeling in you. Like, thanks, Leo. Like, I love your movies.
Yeah. Like it feels different. Like it's like, as a man, you have to like, so it kind of sucks, but you can't get a relationship from scarcity. You get a relationship from scarcity, you will cheat on her if you get the chance. You'll never really love her. You'll never have actual like caring about her.
She will cheat on you.
Yeah, she'll cheat on you too. Like it's like until you become an abundant man, you should never get in a relationship. The same way that you should not like a lot of guys, the majority of dudes get in a relationship from this place. It's like I had no other options. She was my best option. No, you should have became a better person, and then from like that better person, that better like value proposition. Now you have more choices. Now because you have more choices, now the girl you date, you're gonna actually truly care about. Like you're not dating her because you need her. You're dating her because like she was your best option, and now you actually care about the person. And like as opposed to like
I literally did a video on this a few months ago, but exactly. So it was called like the biggest relationship mistake guys make. And my premise was exactly what you're saying. So basically, this is the reason, like you ask most guys who are in a relationship, right? Like the average guy, oh, well, why are you dating this girl? You know, the reason they most often give you, well, she's hot. The sex is good, right? That's their justification. So basically what happens, this guy is in scarcity. There's one, relatively attractive girl who will have sex with him. So he wants to lock that sex in, right? But he can't name things about her personality. Like I've been in several relationships in my life. And if you ask me, well, why are you dating that girl? I can give you a long list. I'm like, well, she's actually one of the most loyal people I've ever met. She's helped me so much in my life. She's actually really smart and funny. Like I can give you lists. They're not even related to her looks at all, because those are the things that make me, when I'm coming from a place of abundance, for me to actually give up other girls, this girl has to bring a lot to the table. Like she can't be a bitch. Like there's no way I'm gonna date a girl who's a bitch because I have other options. So yeah, for sure. Like it makes you choose much, much better partners. And you're also not in a rush to pick a partner, right? Because to me, like if I don't get in a relationship for the next 2 years, I'm okay. Like I can get laid without a problem. So to me, it doesn't matter, right? But it's not that I'm choosing not to be in a relationship. It's just that the girl has to really bring a lot of fucking value for me to give up what I'm giving up. Versus for a lot of guys, it's like my default is nothing. My default is jerking off. So a bitch who will fuck me once a week is better than that.
Yeah, well, like, all right, so you should be coming from a place where you love being single so much that like the girl would have to be such an amazing value proposition for you to date her. Like for me, I do still have sex with girls that I don't like. Unfortunately, I'm working on it, but not.
Yeah, of course, I do too. Yeah, me too.
It's definitely but like personalities are such a factor in whether or not I want to continue talking to you. Like I had a girl in here the other day that was like gorgeous, like a dime piece. And I got so bored out like hanging out with her the entire time because I was just the one who was saying all the clever shit and she was just receiving it the entire time. And by the time I was sitting here, I was kind of like, dude, I don't like this bitch. So I just started working while she was hanging out over here. Like after I pulled her home, I just started working. And it wasn't like some kind of ego thing. It was like legit that like, I don't know. It's just like, I'm like, would I rather be talking to her right now or could I actually be using my time a little better? I'm like, I can use my time a little better than this. So I just started working. If she was like, if she had a personality, though, she would have been amazing because she was a dime. She was very hot, but she just lacked the personality side of it. And we're actually friends now.
Did you guys want to bang that night or what happened? Did you guys hook up that night?
Well, all right. So this girl actually, so I ended I'll send you a picture after. She's gorgeous. But what happened was I actually approached her on the strip over here, and I ended up making out with her at the end of the night. And but what happened was one of her girlfriends started hitting me up afterwards, and she goes, "Hey, I'm sorry. Look, we're here with this guy. We're staying at this guy's place. The guy's being really handsy with me. Is there any chance that I can like stay at your place and stay in this spare bedroom?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And I was just like stupid, which I invited her over, and then we had sex. And then like now, like I can't like go and date the other girl. Well, what ended up happening was that those two ended up getting in a fight and shit, and I ended up like kind of breaking off with that girl that I had sex with. And I was like, I went back to the girl and I apologized about what happened. And then we went on this fucking like date and we met up. And then as I kept hanging out with her, like she was hot, but you know, aside from the hotness, like there was nothing like behind it. She was just like kind of just like a little bit blah. So yeah.
I know plenty of girls like that. They're hot, but like they're just like they bring nothing to the table. Like they're like and sometimes they take away. Like they're like, you know, a big pet peeve of mine. Like I tell this to every girl that I wind up seeing more than once. Like there's several things I don't like. Flaking, I don't like that. Like if you have something happens, just let me know. Don't fucking flake on me. Second thing I don't like is girls. Like if I'm hanging out with someone, they're constantly on their phone. Like, look, I don't even like this. I won't put up with that shit even with my male friends. But like my good friends will never do that, right? You know, we're hanging out. We haven't seen each other in a while. Like, let's talk. Obviously, you can check your phone, but like you're not going to be on your phone the whole time, right? Like when a girl does that, she comes over. Even like even if she's super DTF and I want to fucking her, if she's on her phone for half the night, like that's a big turn off for me. So there's like things like that like I definitely like screen and look for.
I've seen like so many red flags. I feel the same thing though. So like I screen hard. I oftentimes won't even tell the girl that I'm like even screening her. I'm like, I just want to like. So what we're talking about right here is like something that most guys won't talk about. So what do most guys do? This was the point I was trying to get at. So you and me care about something beyond the looks. But if a guy approaches a girl, in his head, all that matters is the fact that she's hot. So obviously he wants to fuck her. So if he's hot, then she must want to fuck him. But you and me both know on some level that there's something beyond that because you and me both have abundance. So now because we have abundance, now we actually care what's beyond the looks because you and me both can get looks. We can get a dime piece. But it's tough to find a dime piece with a personality. It's tough to find a girl that we can connect with. That's tough. Yeah. Or like, you know, that doesn't piss us off. Like that's tough.
For sure, man, for sure. And I think this is ironic because, you know, what do most like mainstream media and whatever say about like guys who do like, oh, you guys are shallow. You guys are so shallow. You fucking all these girls. Like, why don't you just be normal? The reality, the normal guys are the ones who are shallow because they pick their partner purely based on looks and the fact that this person will have sex with them. Versus guys like players, guys who have a lot of game, they're actually a lot less shallow because when they're settling down with a girl, they're looking for a lot more than just looks. So it's kind of an ironic thing.
Well, I don't know the amount of times that I've talked to like guys, and for them, it was like, all right, well, shit. Actually, I'm not gonna say that because that guy's still. I don't know. Like when you're in such scarcity, your value needle is like so fucked. Like you're like, I haven't had sex in years, and now all of a sudden you're like, you know, you see like, you see a girl with like maybe like it's hot, and then like you're like, oh, you won't even go talk to her. You'll just like kind of in your head just stew. You'll maybe even take like a mental snap like of her body so you can masturbate to it later. But it's like you're just like this repressed person, and like society doesn't get that shit. Like it's not that these guys. It's not even that we're not creating creepy guys. The creepy guys are coming to the community to figure out how not to be creepy. It's not like the community is not like this is the problem people don't get. It's not that we're creating like even creepy people. We're like the people that come into this.
We're making people, well, if anything, we're making people less creepy.
Yeah.
I have no problem calling out, like if a guy's in my mastermind group, he's doing something creepy, I'm like, bro, that was kind of creepy, man. Don't do that. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to work. It's ineffective. Well, I never make moral arguments. I just make practical arguments. I'm like, listen, like your morals are what they are. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, you can stay in my group. But it's an ineffective strategy. Like doing creepy shit, it's not going to be effective. So for that reason, you should not do it.
Yeah, well, it's like you can't connect with the girl as a person. You're like just kind of looking at her as a whole to fill, or like a thing to prop up your ego on. You're like, imagine if I dated this girl. Or you're worrying so much about what if she rejects you instead of like being like open to rejection, because obviously two people, not everybody's supposed to get along. Like, you know, you're not supposed to get along with everybody. Yeah. So like you should be open to it.
Yeah, I think the big thing that's not talked about amongst pickup coaches or in the community, I think that there's this big misconception, and this is what annoys me is when pickup coaches propagate this, like, yeah, you know, get this product or take my boot camp and you're going to get the majority of girls, get every girl that you like to like you back. Like, you're going to get every girl, and it's pure fucking marketing nonsense. Like, you're not going to get even half the girls that you like. Like, I'm doing a video that I'm releasing in a week that's going to show you, because guys also think like, oh, what percentage of your matches that do you hook up with, right? Guys think it's like 50% or something. No, dude, it's like 5 or 10%. Like most girls, they drop off for no reason. So I'm literally going to show that, like, listen, like cold approach, right? You're not going to hook up with even I would say a third of the girls that you approach. Like even if you're only approaching girls who are checking you out and you have, a very solid game, it's still going to be a low percentage. And that's just because most of the time, you don't click with a girl, right? You're just not compatible. She's not in a good mood. Like any one of the reasons I gave earlier, like so many factors outside your control, right? But that doesn't mean that your game is bad. It just means you're a normal human being. And if you go into this with a mindset of like, I can get every girl, I need to be able to get every girl. If I don't get every girl or most girls, and there's something wrong with me, then you're gonna get in your head and you're gonna be like fucking negative and bitter.
Well, if you take any of those guys that are talking about like exactly what you're talking about, where like they're worrying about the percentage. If you take that guy who's worrying about his percentage or whatever, and you put him out and you're like, okay, here, you're going to go approach 100 girls. Let's see how many girls that want to fuck you. What's going to end up happening is because like they're this creepy thing, no girls want to fuck them. Like they'll approach 100 girls and no girl want to fuck them. There have been days where I'm just like in a dark mood where I would like approach hundreds of girls in a day. And because I'm in this dark mood, every single one would reject. And there were days where I'd just be so in the zone. Like I'd just be so like, like we're obviously, there's a percentage, but like it was a way better than it was previous. Yes. And it's like these guys just don't have because like Dunning-Kruger effect, that which you don't understand, you think you understand. And like, because they're just so ignorant, they think that like, this must be simple, right? Like you and me both, when we first got into this, how simple did you think game and like success of the women was going to be? Like, do you think
it was super complicated, man? I was like, oh my God, this is so complex. Like, I was like, dude, when I was getting into the game, I wasn't even thinking about sleeping with girls. I just wanted to get to the point where I could make out with girls. So I actually thought it was really complicated.
I came from the opposite. I thought it was going to be simple or simpler. Like, I thought that, like, it was like, I didn't think that there'd be so many, like, layers to this shit. Like, there's constant, like, I'm still running into new layers in this shit. I'm constantly still learning stuff. It's like, I don't know, like, most guys, like, whenever you tell a guy what you do for a living, what are the things they usually do? Like, I'm pretty sure they're pretty similar to what I do. You tell them that, like, you teach guys to be better with women. What do they usually say to you?
We were talking about guys who I tell this to, a woman.
Like a random guy, like some guy, like let's say you're taking an Uber. And
most guys think it's awesome, I would say. Most guys are like, whoa, holy shit, you can make money doing that? Like, most guys think it's cool. I'm like, yeah, you can. Like, my business does pretty well. They're like, holy shit, that's awesome. What's your website? I want to check it out. Even guys who are married, like guys, like, for example, my neighbor, right? Like, he's a really nice guy. I see him and his wife. I chat with them. And he was like, he's like, dude, that's fascinating. Like, he's like, yeah, send me the link. Me and the wife will check out your website. Like, they're just, a lot of it is just curiosity. So generally speaking, the responses I get are very positive.
Dude, that's actually a great response. I stopped telling guys. So I get 2 responses. I mean, I get that response like a quarter of the time, but my usual response goes like this. Oh shit, that sounds super easy. I imagine I could do it. Or 2, they'll start trying to show me pictures of girls they fucked, trying to show me like how good with girls they are. And I'm just kind of like, man, like, you don't realize what you're doing right now. You don't realize like how like clairvoyant this is. You don't like that's what I keep like running across, is like just guys that seem just ignorant.
That's interesting. The first one I almost never get. The second one, actually the first one I get more from girls than I do from guys. Like sometimes girls would be like, oh, really? I could do that. Like, I was like, well, there's kids, noble. There are girls who do exactly that. Second one, I do get sometimes, yes. Like, I find it funny. It's just more like interesting to me. Like when the guy's like, yeah, check this out. Like, what do you think of my profile? Like, I'll be like, you could switch this around, blah, blah, blah. I get a little kick out of that.
Hey, man, it was honestly a super huge pleasure talking to you. Like, I'd love to how this conversation flowed. How can my audience get a hold of you?
Yeah, so check out my YouTube. We're going to link everything in the description below, but check out my YouTube channel. I put out 2 videos a week, and I do also a live stream every Sunday. Check out my website, playingfire.com. We have a lot of free tips and guides there, a lot of Larry reports, so just a lot of content you can go through, and of course forums.playingfire.com, which is basically my version of like a free Facebook group where you can go on there, ask questions. I try to be very active. It's a growing community, so a lot of guys will help you and answer you. So definitely check. I would say one of those 3 things or all of them.
Yeah, and like I said, guys, like, so I'm gonna be putting his all of his information in the description below, along with the comments. So if you guys want to follow him, go to the comment section below. All right. Anyways, that being said, peace out.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man. Take it easy.
And just like that, it opens up a brand new passage of what you've seen, from the crypt to the casket, from the dreams to the where am I going. It seems so cliche to appear so important. The world's full of anti-progressive people. They bark a lot, but their aggressive nature's see-through. The was written for your own sake. It's hard to find the